welcome back to another episode of the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show, the show where we talk about all the crazy stupid stuff that people do in marketing and how you cannot do crazy stupid stuff, but can do meaningful, awesome, impactful stuff with your marketing time, resources, and budgets and energy. We'll see if we talk about energy today, but AI uses energy. We're talking about AI. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm Tracy Borison. I'm your host. And today we're going to be bringing it back to a topic I know everyone loves to talk about right now, which is AI, which we have been kind of avoiding on the Crazy Stupid Marketing Show. Not intentionally, but because Taryn's got some good stats she's going to share with us, but there's some maybe not super helpful information or strategies. Do we even call them strategies, tactics, maybe for using AI that happen in marketing today that are like super common? And these are like, let me ask ChatGPT to help me create 10 social media posts related to this monthly theme. If you're doing that, there might be some more possibilities that you leave with before the end of the show today, and what AI's relationship to marketing can look like. So before we get too far into the conversation, first of all, before I introduce my lovely guest, and we always have a lovely guest, I also want to remind everyone who might happen to be joining us today, like my friend Meryl in the comments, that this is a conversation for everyone. So while it might look like a conversation for two people because there's only two people on the video, this is a open exploration for all of us to explore our marketing relationships to AI. So if you are joining us live, please get in the comments, share your experiences, share your frustration, share your wins, share your questions, share your insights. If you happen to be an AI expert, because I invited some of my other friends who also know a lot about AI. So if that happens to be you, please share. That makes the conversation more robust for everybody. And I would also say more interesting for Taryn and I. So bring it, folks. If you are joining us live, join us in the comments. Okay, let's learn about our guest today. Taryn, can you share a little bit about your journey that led you to AI and marketing and whatever else you want people to know about you?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I have been a lifelong creative strategist and marketer. What brings me, I'm going to go back to the beginning real quick and then flash forward to now. So in the last 2 years, I've been feeling like I've done this before, right? Where it's been, I feel like it's that kind of energy, that exploration, that figuring things out. When I started my career, it was in 1996, working in kind of digital design and creative, coding websites where we actually had to learn how to code, how to do markup language, CSS, all of that stuff, bringing traditional print design techniques to the digital space, right? And I feel like right now, and what's funny is I guess it's 30 years later, I'm at the same point in my career, right? Where I'm exploring, I'm trying new things, I'm figuring things out as I go, and trying to apply them to what I'm trying to do and trying to accomplish, right? So over the span of my 30-year career, I'm in my second kind of, I guess, I don't know, rebirth or kind of coming into just a new space that's a little exploratory. So a little bit of being an explorer right now again and figuring things out and kind of mastering things. So
yeah. I love that. I mean, I love to say that the real marketers who have this deep curiosity about figuring out, okay, what do we have and what are we trying to achieve and how can we combine these two things to be more productive, create more meaningful relationships, and all other kinds of questions. There really is no career destination per se, right? There's no point. I haven't experienced it in my marketing career where you kind of get to a place and you're like, yep, know it all, and I can just execute for the rest of the time.
No, I mean, it's always about lifelong learning. I mean, my career has never been traditional like that. You know what I mean? Where I always say this, when somebody posts a job posting for a marketing leader and they're like, you had to start as a coordinator in this channel, and then a specialist, then a marketing manager for 5 years, then a manager that managed people, then a senior manager, then a director for 3 years. That's when you qualify. I'm like, dude, that's not been me. I mean, I take the opportunities as they come, right? My thing is I love learning. I love problem solving. So if that's what you've got, Like that's what you need.
Yeah. And this is what Taryn and I vibed on in our first conversation is that like, yeah, this is not a show about marketing job descriptions, although maybe we should do a show marketing job
There should be one because a lot of people can't write them, like from what I say. And that's not attacking our recruiting and HR business partners, but you know, you could do better.
Maybe AI and how many AI agents are now writing job descriptions.
Yeah.
Anyway, this is a conversation for another day, but Taryn, let's kick off because before we came on, you were like, "Oh, like this all of this new data that's coming out about AI and what tools there are and how they can be useful or how they're not being useful." So, as you are exploring in this arena, what are some of those like data points that you think is really important for people to know about marketing's relationship with AI?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you flash back to like, let's say January of 2023. How many marketers on this call that, on this live that remember that our jobs are going to go away in 6 months, right? That all marketing is going to cease. It's going to be machines. It's going to be LLMs. It's going to be apps. It's going to be agentic, all of that. And as you can plainly see, we're all still here, right? We're all still doing work. We're all still in this space. Nothing's gone away, right? And I think for me, like in preparation for this, I did a little bit of researching in a new tool called, I'm going to give a plug, Aisha. So it's a kind of really, I want to say a Black-centered and created AI. So it challenges biases, really focuses on the strong community, and it's kind of a less harmful AI. So give it a check, check it out, download it. But and I'll drop links in the comments too. So anyway, I did some research, and when there was I believe a Salesforce report, and in this report, they talked about, I think it was 87% of marketers are using AI in some regard within their work, within their daily work. At the enterprise level, for those who filled out this survey, and once again, I'll drop this link in the comments. But those who are at the enterprise level, it's 94% are using AI at some point. Now, some of that's going to be leadership just making those demands like, hey, build an agent for it, use this tool, use this, burn some tokens, whatever it is, right? But that means like largely out of the sample size that they used, a lot of people are using it in their marketing. Now, we can tell because when we got on LinkedIn, when we see the BD emails and direct messages, they all suck. They're all very beige. They all sound the same. They all look the same. I commented on another marketing leader's post yesterday that I think it's the colors ecru, right? It's just that like beige. It's just there. It doesn't really have any impact, right? So while the numbers support that, we can see the results of it, right? And we also see that marketers are starting to figure out other ways to use it. And how I'm using it and how I'm approaching something like this is I'm looking at taking one marketer like me and making me into 3 people, right? So like I have multiple kind of different jobs that I work on, marketing a podcast. I ghostwrite for CEOs and companies on LinkedIn. Like I do this really wide swath of work, right? And I handle all of that by using like 4 or 5 tools and, and some that are AI powered that weren't AI powered, but now they are to accomplish that, right? So I think for me, it's, as a marketer, we have to really look at what we're trying to accomplish. What are the goals? What are we trying to do? Is it sameness? Is it like sound like everybody else? Is it throw differentiation out the window? I don't know. For me, it's about productivity, about being impactful and intentional in all my work and having all of it kind of in a very bespoke way, right? So like when I write for a CEO, I have to write in their tone. So like I use Gemini to research the tone, to finesse the tone, right? To be able to write and research their material and be able to speak like them because that's the goal. That's my objective. So like that's how I'm coming to the work with what I do. Mm-hmm. All right, I just so back for a long time. So I wanted like let you jump in.
Well, and I think one of the things that's really interesting, I talk about this all the time, and it actually falls into the category of what I call stupid marketing, which is doing something because someone else said that you should do it.
Yeah.
And what you just spoke to really clearly, Taryn, is that this is what I'm trying to do. So I use it to enable what I'm trying to do. And a lot of times in marketing, I find that we get confused between what we're trying to achieve and what we're trying to do, right? So in your example, right, you could consider like, what I'm trying to achieve is build thought leadership for a CEO. Yeah. What I am doing is writing a blog, right? So we can get very confused by the doing versus the achievement or the the goal that we're going for. And when we are only, I mean, I would say most people probably haven't even optimized AI for the doing, but if we're only looking at the doing component, because we have brought AI into the conversation as a productivity tool, right? So we want to use it so we can do things faster, or we can do more things as a human. I would like to say more impactful things, but that's a different conversation altogether. We bring it in just as this productivity tool, then it tends to get like segregated into the doing, right? Like, okay, I need to create blog posts or social media content or images or things like that. And I start creating a lot of them. I mean, like everyone was talking at Christmas time about Coca-Cola and there's 700,000 AI versions or whatever of their ad, right? Because now we can do that with AI. And then on the one side, you're like, well, yeah, you can, right? But like how many people received 100,000 versions of that? Like, where is the diminishing marginal returns? And if it's too cheap, then we don't have the conversation about diminishing marginal returns. We're just like, well, we're doing it. I can make 10 posts in the same amount of time. I used to be able to make one post, so I'll just do 10 posts. You know, but now we've taken the goal and achievement out of the conversation and only looking at the doing. We're not looking at whether or not now those 10 blogs, let's say, that we've created actually delivered on the goal of setting someone up as a thought leader. We just got distracted maybe by the doing, and now we can do so much of it. So it becomes distracting. I don't know. What are your thoughts?
No, I mean, I agree. I mean, when you're so like fixated on the doing of it, you're missing the goal, right? Like, so yeah, you wrote 10 posts, but what was the engagement rate on it? What is it? How is it to like the baseline of your performance of your account? How many followers were gained from this? How many people clicked the link, right? Like on LinkedIn in particular, right? So like while you're focused on getting 10 out, how good were those 10, right? Would it have been better to focus on 5 and really maintain the voice of the brand or maintain the voice of the thought leader, right? And put your effort into really constructing something that stands the test of time and that is solid, right? That is performing. Like you said, hundreds of thousands of ad iterations. How much more Coca-Cola was sold, right? From that, we don't know. Right? Just because you can do it doesn't mean you need, like, just because you can doesn't mean you do it, right? You've got, like, and for me, I will stand fast and die on this hill. But the things that marketers that cannot be replaced by AI, even agents can't do this, right? Is our lived experience and our judgment, right? And those are the two things that sit squarely in the hands of a marketer, no matter what level you're in. You've got to decide. You've got to look at your objectives. You've got to figure out if this is the right tone, right? And this is how is this adding to the campaign, or how is this adding to the overall, revenue objectives or the product objectives, right? And you've got to make the right judgment on that. And of course, writing from our own lived experience, like as a thought leader. So, like for me, the best compliment I ever get on my thought leadership is like, I've learned some stuff from it, right? That's huge. Like, I'm glad I could write in a way where I can demystify something and break it down to where somebody who might not be familiar with the material actually walks away knowing a little bit more, right? But AI can't replace my lived experience. So as a marketing leader, I have had those crazy CMO calls or texts at like 7:30 at night. Who was like, "Who the hell approved this campaign?" Like what you have to do after that happens, and like that's all the lived experience that you're just like, holy crap, I don't want to go through that again, right? So like, let me make sure I like do this and do that and do this. So AI can't replicate that. So only like what we've done in the last 5, 10, 20, 25 years, that's our sweet spot. That's our value prop. That's our thought leadership.
Yeah. Well, I think this is really interesting too, because I mean, I didn't really anticipate the AI conversation would go into like identity of marketers, but like there's a, and I think this actually ties into what Greg is also saying in the comments, who's going to block our whole face because Greg has much to say. But on the subject of job loss, for the past 2 years, where I would have engaged a marketer, a graphics designer, a copywriter, or even an editor for X amount of dollars per hour, I've not. Pre 2020, I would have budgeted money for marketing. I don't, and would argue that my output in general is 10 times. My firm is growing at a lower cost of doing business. And I think the thing that is interesting to me here is I feel, and I know Greg a little bit, so I like, I know there's like that underlying intention of like doing the things that work for you. And in marketing, I like to tie this back to the identity of the marketers. For a really long time, people just identified as like a graphic designer, right? And like my value to humans is that I design graphics. But that's not your value as a human. That's a skill you have, and it's nice to have that skill. And it's like, honestly, it's cool now for me. My son and I are building an app, but I don't have code. I can't write code, but I don't need to write code anymore to build an app, right? So like, it's cool because it like creates a path for things to come to life that couldn't come to life. But it does also create potentially an identity crisis for a marketer if we have identified our value, even like take it away from the whole like human experience. So even we're talking about to our career or to our business value, is that it's not just about the thing that you do. It's not just that you can edit a video. It's not just about those skills. So what more can we bring to the table? But we also have to have this self-awareness, but I guess it's more like confidence, like the confidence to say like, yeah, that's fine. Good job, Canva, for making some images. And like a lot of those things still are like I think maybe this is just a marketer thing though, but like, I think we all know the stock images that people are using from Canva, right? Like, they're pretty, we get it, right? But there's lots of scenarios. This is where it comes back down to that like intention component. There's lots of scenarios where stock images are totally fine. Like having a non-stock image is not going to create any more value. So you could just have a stock image. It's sometimes like, even for me, right? There's been some times where I'm like, nope, I don't want these stock images. I want a like custom created image. And sometimes I'll try and do it myself. And I also have lots of friends who are graphic designers. So then I'm like, actually, you know who I want that person to do that thing. Which is now a networking thing. But this is also like, I think the fun in having like an AI conversation, because it allows you to challenge those perspectives. Where do I think this value lives? Does the value live in the productivity? Does the value live in the just creation? Where does the value live? And once we identify where that value lives, I think it's like creates so much potential to say like, oh, is this a human thing? Or is this something that my little friend ChatGPT is my choice? I just like them better than
No, I mean, that's fair, right? Like that's like what works for people. You know what I mean? Like, so for me, I saw Canva's demo live at an AI conference in San Francisco last year. Like over a year ago when they showed the AI enhancements, right? I have been overall pretty disappointed with like the output from Canva, to be honest with you. And I'm a huge Canva, like I do a lot of stuff in Canva. But I feel like
its AI image generator is just not
it's not good. I mean, you know what I use instead? Like my secret weapon is Gamma. Like if there's any Gamma fans out here, like, you know, drop a comment. But for me, I did an entire website of really unique custom images with Gamma, right? Writing complex prompts. So like my prompts aren't like 7 words. My prompts are like somewhere between 40 and 1,500 words, depending on what I'm trying to accomplish, right? Like I don't to get what I need to get out of it to accomplish that mission, I have to be as descriptive as possible, right? To ensure the outcome is exactly what I need, right? For me, early on, and you'll probably laugh, but like I'm a Gen Xer, right? So like people automatically think dinosaur with that. And I, as an early web adopter, like I've got that little bit of spark in me, right, where I'm going to kind of do really cool things. But my God, what was I going to say? I just forgot the next thing I was going to say. Well, I'm going to pivot over to Gamma anyway.
Yeah.
But with Gamma, right, like finding the right mix, I can write a strategy like deck within probably about somewhere between 6 and 10 hours, depending on the complexity of the strategy. The thing I always hate doing, and I mean I despise doing, is building the deck, right? Instead, I can put all my effort into writing a hell of a strategy, right? And then drop that into Gamma, review everything, make the judgments, do the quality check, and have a deck within like 10 minutes, right? And that's just using the base setting. I'm not even using any kind of branding. It's just for me, right? Writing it. My impact is on how I build that strategy and how I kind of solve the problems for the business, not how pretty the deck looks. I can give that to a machine and let that crank it out, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, I did like for an AI site, with all the images out of Gamma, like that was a time saver, right? And these were complex images where, like, even as a designer who, like, I was using Photoshop too, when most people had never heard of Photoshop. So, like, as somebody who can do it and who could like erase somebody out of the picture and put JFK shaking your hand doing something, it still would take me a while to build the composite images for the site. Like, it would have taken me probably 10x, right, to build those images in Adobe, than to use a tool like Gamma and crank that out, right? So, like, it should be the way I look at it, AI in general is a force multiplier, right? So, with Greg's comment about, terminating subscriptions and focusing on like a couple of tools, that is awesome. Like, I love seeing that, right? Because you're building intentionally to your business and to what works, right? You're not forcing things through. You're not like, everybody use these 12 agents or everybody do this or everybody do that. You're doing a solution that works for the business. And that's really what we've got to focus on and what works for us as marketers.
Yeah. And I think it's funny actually, because I was at a AI training session earlier today, which was funny because then when I was thinking about it after, I'm like, oh, we're going to like reveal so much more helpful information in this.
We're going to kick some tires on that training, but yeah.
Well, and here's the biggest issue I had with the training. I'm not saying nobody took anything away from this training, but that it's like a group of people anticipating what your problem is, creating an hour-long presentation about how you can do that with AI. But like my whole experience of it, like, this is not my problem. This is not what I'm trying to accomplish. I don't need to do it for those things. And so I can sit and I can listen, but I also have been listening to the audiobook of Brave New Work. I don't know if you've read it, but it has a chapter. Highly recommend for anybody who hasn't. But there's a chapter about information, and this is the chapter I happen to be on. And it was talking about the push and pull of information, right? And this is the interesting thing about AI, because it makes so much information available, but then it also like can sum it up in ways that are maybe helpful or maybe not helpful. But like the pushing of information, right? Like, this is what I think you should know. And so this is what I'm going to tell you, and consume it and know it and learn and live it, right? Versus me being like, okay, what am I trying to do? What is out there that enables the doing of that? How do I try that on in terms of how that can serve me? How do I tweak that so that it can optimize my performance of the thing? And then go from there. There's that concept of the push and pull in AI, I think, is another thing that's interesting for people to look at, because if all you're doing is consuming what's pushed at you, then it's a very small window of what is possible for you to accomplish with AI, instead of looking at it in the flip direction, which is, again, starting with what do I need to do, and then come back with, okay, how could I do that? Like, how might I use tools? And I mean, you can extend this into all other kinds of things. How might I use my network? How might I, but like, if we're not looking at AI like that and we're just like, I mean, do you remember early in the AI days? This will probably make Greg laugh in particular, but like, remember when everyone was just like, prompts? I'm gonna just like write prompts and then send everyone my list of prompts, and that's gonna be like my value. My value is this list of prompts that people can use. And the number one job that was gonna be available in 2024 was prompt engineer. And you're like, we're
Was prompt engineering, right?
Yeah. And it's not, and it's like, Greg, there's a whole bunch of really awesome stuff happening in the comments here. So like, I'm going to come back to them, but like Greg is also sharing, like, existing solutions are bloated and one size fits all, but it's like, we don't need that, right? Like, I don't need you as an agency, for example. This is interesting about what it's doing to agencies too, right? Like, I don't need you to do all of those things. So I don't need to outsource a bunch of things to an agency because I can do this and this and this and this. I don't need you to do that. So there's like so much of that though. I mean, I keep coming back to this component of like, if you have a clear understanding of what it is that you're trying to accomplish, then, I mean, theoretically, like, go to town, man. If it's an amplifier, which I also believe in, right? Like, it should be amplifying you. But then let's also talk about, like, there's a lot of people out there right now who are sitting on AI solutions, quote unquote, that are not achieving their marketing goals. So if that's the scenario that people are like, yes, we've been using chat to generate content, or we've been, I don't know, even maybe optimizing email workflows or something with AI, whatever it is that they've tried, but it hasn't actually delivered on the results end of things, the delivering on goals end of things. What are some things that you've seen, Taryn, that can help people assess what's happening there and perhaps redirect the focus to a more meaningful direction?
Well, I mean, I'm going to get hung up on intention, right? So, like, you have to be really, like, for me, I'm very intentional on how I use things and how I build things. So I just had a call earlier, right, with a colleague, and we were looking at some email metrics, right? And, you know, we have kind of an AI-empowered workflow that we do with email. And, you know, but the challenge that we had on something, and what I challenged him on was, it wasn't about the AI outputs or the metrics or the results. I was like, dude, you went to test long-form content and short-form content, but you also changed subject lines. So how do we know what influences the CTOR of that email campaign, right? Like, we still have to understand the marketing principles and practices, and everything that we do has to be kind of coached around that, right? So, like, it doesn't matter if you're using 3 agents or 2 agents or Claude Code, right? Or Claude Cowork. Kind of stepped away from Claude. That's a different story. But for me, you know, it's like you still have to understand your marketing fundamentals. And I think what Greg's comment was the last time, and by the way, when you say 1989, I'm like, yeah, I remember that. But Greg, I also feel too, like, the challenge is there are some people who are like, AI is the solution for everything. And then there are some people who AI is kind of the solution for everything, but also we have to stay with the same stupid playbook we've had for 30 years. So, like, these playbooks were not designed around that, right? And I feel like people are using AI with these playbooks now. And for me, as I'm a sci-fi fan, with being fully out, sci-fi dork, if I can say, and I look at the playbooks from the last 20, 25 years in growth marketing and demand gen. They're using AI now in it, and they're using the same stupid tactics that really didn't work that well beforehand, and now they work even less, right? Because you've superpowered it with, like, an agent running in the background. I mean, somebody was doing a BDDM with me. The first 3 messages were an AI, and he was like, "Oh, you're talking to my AI." I was like, "I know. It's like a Terminator with the rubber skin. Like, all I needed was a German Shepherd to tell me to spit." But like, it's like, dude, I know. And it was really weak and generic and kind of made me like nauseous just dealing with it. But yeah, it's like you have to be intentional with what you're trying to accomplish, what your goals are. And I'm all about cost cutting and figuring things out. Like, I'll give you an example for me. Grammarly, Phrasely, Canva, Gamma, Gemini, and Bordy. So I use Bordy AI, which is an Agentic collaboration partner, and been using them since 2024. Those are my tools. And then I also break out into GPT. So I'm using like 7 tools. The subscriptions are minimum, and it gets me like to accomplish what I'm trying to accomplish and have the metrics and results to prove that, right? And to move the needle. So like it allows me to do 5 or 6 different roles and do it competently and succeed in that space. But I'm very intentional with what I'm doing, right? And there are some things that I've had really fun, clever, kitschy things with. Like I managed in the marketing and guest recruitment for a podcast, Global Top 10 Pod, Top 10% Pod, and I wanted to get the CEO for Bordy on, right? But I couldn't get him to answer and confirm that he could guest on the podcast. So I used his agent, sent him an email, and his agent, the Agentic, an email, and it scheduled it on the calendar. And then I told the host of the podcast, I'm like, listen, there's like a 10% chance this is fully Agentic booked, that he's going to totally ignore this piece, right? And like we won't know until about 15 minutes past the time. So the CEO was like, cool, I get that. I'm like, but he joined and he was like, I had no idea what this is before he put it on my calendar. And I was laughing at that, and they were like, the CEO said that host the pod, he's like, well, Taryn used your agent to get you on the calendar. So yeah. So like I'll jailbreak things, like I'll do little things like that. I mean, if you told me like 3 years ago an agent would help me with my event marketing, I'd be like, dude, you're high. Like share what you're smoking. But I've actually used Bordy in that regard, developing content. Random comments on LinkedIn where it's actually like, you know what, you actually have a nuanced take. You want that into a content outline? Like, why not? Helping fuel my event marketing thing where I'm trying to create great networking experience. So I use Bordy to pull public information and match people with each other so they can have kind of jumpstart the conversation. I use it for prospecting too. So like, I mean, there's like, you have to kind of figure out what you want to do. So that's part of the intentional piece, right? Where it's like, you need to know what you're trying to accomplish, right? Like if you just go into Gemini or GPT and you're like, give me a picture of a dog. Like what kind of dog? What's the dog doing? Is the dog running? Is the dog pooping? Is the dog like lying down? Is it sleeping? Like what is it? Like that's the thing. Most people use it at a level that's just kind of like, that crew, like very beige. You got to go deeper.
Well, like, would you say, Taryn, that it's because like it's getting used at that level because that's the level that we're thinking at? Because I feel like
Are you saying that a whole bunch of people are thinking in ECRU? That really is depressing. That's more depressing than losing my job to a machine. But yeah.
And not because they can only think in that color, but because they're practiced. Let's not say programmed.
Yeah. Okay.
Practiced in that. And that could be for a variety of different reasons.
Could be company, yeah.
Right. Could be. I mean, I think a lot of brands from a like larger company point of view are like very handcuffed into what they're able to do. And so we get like, well, this is the amount of thinking that I can do. So I know it's safe. I know it's within the brand guidelines. So I'll just like keep it. My CEO said they want a dog. So I'm just going to tell it, I want a dog. Just because I'm like, again, totally in alignment with you on this, like, it's an amplifier. So like, I feel like that happens because that's the level we're thinking at, not because that's the only level it's possible for us, but like, that's the practiced level of thinking that we have in marketing, which is like maybe terrifying.
Well, I mean, listen, I've worked for a lot of different companies, like smaller, more like agile companies, huge mega enterprises, like at JP Morgan, right? I knew you couldn't use, you could be terminated for sending an email to your Gmail account from a JP Morgan. I knew you weren't bringing in Gamma or Gemini into there, right? There's too much data. A data breach can just destroy a brand that's been around for 200 years. So like they built their own in-house solutions to access the mountains of data that they have to get the most out of that data because it's just sitting there. So like the fully optimized personalization at scale, they built their own agents and tools, right? That makes total sense. At some companies I've worked, the environment's been so toxic. They don't want to try something new because like if it fails, that's like an automatic termination, right? Like there are companies like that. So like those brands and regulatory industries and all that stuff factors in, right? So like you can't be fully creative. I'm fortunate to be in a place right now where I can really kind of take the restraining bolt out and just fly, right? And just be able to do what I need to do to accomplish that.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
so let's look at this. Like, let's look at this from the concept, because I'm similar, right? Like, I feel like I'm at the point where I'm like fully unconstrained. I know what's private, I know what's not. I won't use things as private, but I will, like, if it's public information, then we, like, yeah, man, you could already find this somewhere else. So I'm gonna use it as part of my query. But so let's assume most people at some capacity are constrained by brand guidelines and data privacy and all of these different types of things. So when we're looking at that, and we're looking at the possibilities that exist within our constraints, and we're looking at maybe a way we're using AI right now that isn't delivering on our goals. What are some ways people can start like moving along that scale to get, I'm not saying like push the boundaries of safety, but I am saying at the end of the day, we have to, if we're not accomplishing our goals, then we're going to get to the point where I think I saw a stat that like 89% of AI transformations don't transform anything, right? So like, we don't want to live there. We know there's potential. We want to move it here. We also know we have constraints. So from the concept of this episode, which is integrating AI and agentic workflows into marketing, what are some of the things that you've seen have helped people move farther along the path from, let's call it corporate ecru, right? The very corporate beige, to like the things that are still within your constraints, but delivering on your goals?
Well, I mean, you know, part of that time period where I was talking about 96 in the web, right? Like, I did a hell of a lot of work on my own, like hacking things, tearing things apart, figuring out how things work. I mean, I built, and I had like 2 weeks of like downtime on a job, and I built a video overlay ad before there was a video overlay ad server, right? So like I had, that's the kind of thing you do, right? In your downtime and your time off. And I know it sounds like I'm telling everybody work 7 days, 12 hours a day. That's not it. But be curious, right? And explore and experiment on your own, figure stuff out. But if you need to bring something into work, right, and maybe work's a little bit more conservative, not politically, but like brand wise, right, more like tighter to the brand, and make a business case for it, right, and figure that out. Or get the brand, like the brand value, the promise, the attributes, and the voice, and plug it into a thing and just test it out, right? Like, you know, like take a component of that and just test it and see, like do an assessment or something, and just, you know, see if it's worth it, make the business case, and then, you know, hit the management and just see if you can up level and bring in the right tools, right? It's not just bringing in any tools, but the tools that can help you propel you forward and the brand forward. You know, I mean, ultimately, the ultimate goal in business is revenue, right? So, like, if it contributes, you've got to make a business case, but like, you've got to be hungry and explore some stuff. I mean, like, I do stuff like that. Like, I've recently moved, so I'm surrounded by boxes and chaos, right? But like, there was earlier this year, I had like at least a Saturday. Every Saturday, I would just go, we can have a cocktail, like do a cannabis drink, and I would chill out and just write and do things and test and query and pump and do all that stuff, right? And just figure out what works, how it works, and like what can I use it to make one little marketer like me become 3 marketers. And then I start implementing that stuff. Like, I'll give you an example. The company I do the podcast for, right? So I mentioned Gordy several times to them, like over the course of a year. And I got, yeah, whatever. It's just a chat bot, blah, 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 blah. And, you know, like, it's, you know, the bros are like, it's not what we're using. And I'm like, I started booking guests on the podcast. And then the host was like, holy shit. Pardon me. Sorry.
It's good. Happens on the show. It's not for kids.
This episode is definitely marked not safe for kids. So, you know, he was like, holy crap, like that was an amazing guest you got on. I'm like, well, I work with an Agentic collaboration partner. He gives me a whole bunch of people on my outside time, outside of work. I'm sitting down, I'm meeting with these guys talking about it, talking about the podcast, seeing if they're a good fit, and then saying, hey guys, I'm going to, like, this is the next steps. and then I get them. Like I work with the EA, get them booked, get it everything together, and then it runs. We had probably before I took it over the guest recruitment, we had challenges. Like there were sometimes we need a guest like the following week, and we had nobody in the pipe. Because I don't know if you know, but like guesting for podcasts, like you've got to really like be active on that, follow up with people. I mean, it takes a lot of work, Tracy. You know that, right? It's like getting the right people on, and being intentional and making sure they're within the show and whatever. So we used to be like fly by the seat of the pants. Took it over, integrated an agentic collaboration partner, doing some side work on my own, and now I'm booking guests for episodes that will drop in 3 months, right? So like I am pushing 3 months out. By August, I will have the guest book for the rest of the year, right? Like, that's the goal. Like that's what I'm talking about, and making it faster, better, and stronger.
Yeah, and again, I love that example because is this the only thing Bordy can do? No. But this is about this is what I need to do, and therefore I'm going to use the resources to figure out my way to do that. So also because I mean with AI, there's lots of different ways you can use it, right? It's not so I mean there are specific AIs that are like this is for this, but a lot of the AIs there's a flexibility, there's possibilities that exist in how you can use them. And so even if we're going to say if you're looking for AI, like what could be possible with AI in a podcast recruitment scenario, right? Like maybe Bordy is what you use, but there's probably another way that a different one could also be useful. So, and I love what you talked about in terms of like, I took this away on my own time and like played with it, right? Like, I think there is this, maybe because it is a technical tool and there's a lot of pressure now, whether it's from marketing teams or within business units to say like, optimize AI. We don't want to waste any more time on people things that can be done by AI. We're like, optimize this, get it done. And there's like a urgency and like a speed that's associated with that. So we can stay again, very in the, okay, well, this guy says that it can do this, so I will get that and it will do that. And that's it. And then I'm done. And I've like checked the box of AI optimization, but like, there's no discovery, there's no experimentation, there's no play that is happening in that version of that. And so maybe what I would talk about too, because I do think there are pressure points from the business for a lot of people to optimize the use of AI. So in what might seem like a time crunch or an urgent scenario, what are some things that you think in terms of my time, if I have a quarter to like implement optimal AI, which is not a very well-defined deliverable, but let's just say it's something like that.
Okay.
Marketing team will be fully using AI by the end of Q3, right? And I'm feeling the pressure of that. What are some ways I can get myself back into explorer mode to help me deliver on that goal, which is everything we're talking about, right? We have a goal, we want to deliver on that goal, but I also want to deliver on that goal in a meaningful way without necessarily carrying around this weight for a whole 90 days of I have to make sure this is happening, and do my other job at the same time, do whatever else I need to do. So like, what are some things that you've seen, maybe even like work for you or work for clients?
Well, I can share what worked for me for sure. Like I started small. Okay, so like this, I'm gonna totally fess up. Like I can be a procrastinator on really boring stuff. Like, so
can't we all? I think we all can.
I'm like a horrible procrastinator. I think when I got into college, design school, I actually did my thing like a week before it was due and FedEx and I got approved, right? But it was like, I did it at the very last minute. My mom was on my back for months, right? So like, I wasted a whole summer, but that's me, right? That's just how I operate, how my mind works. Content outlines are how I started. So I have ideas and I have concepts of articles. I know what I want to kind of say, and I know like some of the core topics I want to hit on, but I hate structuring content outlines. That's not watching white paint or active paint dry, right? I can't do it. I hate it. Can't do it. So I can't do it. It's like I just don't want to do it. I'm just
Right.
me. So I would use a pro subscription to Gemini. And be like, here's what I want to write about. Like boop 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 boop, and cover this, and then like show the efficacy or show like maybe there's concern here or how we move forward. Can you just make this into an outline, like a straight outline, so I can just kind of like go by it? Bam, right? Really easy peasy. There's some content that I have to like. I don't get the MP4 file for soon enough, like the cut MP4. So like what I'll do is I get a transcript or something. I drop that in. I'm like, Gemini, summarize this. Now that sounds like I'm trusting Gemini to do a lot in Pro. I actually randomly go through and read what it comes back. So when I ask for a summary, I read it. And then what I do is I take the core transcript in a Google Doc and I search for those terms that it used. So the other day I had it crunched down. I've been using it for transcripts for like, I don't know, 6-8 months. And yeah, because sometimes it's like an hour of spoken word is a lot to read, right? And to remember some of the points. So I had it summarize something, and I was reading its summary, and I was like, that doesn't sound right. Like because I did listen to part of the source note before, and I went back in, searched the document, then I came back to Gemini. I said, Gemini, this is not present in the transcript that I asked you to summarize. And you know what it said to me? You caught me. You caught me. I saw these words together and I thought that I could really oversimplify it and hammer the point home. You were right. It's not in the original transcript. I was like, thank you for admitting that. And for me, like the other thing I also do is thought leadership of my own and content on LinkedIn. That became a LinkedIn article, right? Or LinkedIn post about like, you still can't, like, you can't skip the judgment part, right? You might do easy basic stuff, but you still got to look at it. That's why I'm not quite there with metrics and like marketing analytics, right? I want to look at the numbers in the platform. I want to kind of do the math and figure it out. I'm not ready to just wholesale let the numbers flow into something and have an agent work on it and crunch it down. I'm not at that point yet. But like on the basic stuff, on the boring stuff, on the white paint drying on the wall stuff, that's where I find like that, because those are time sinks. You know what I mean? When you're writing a content outline, for me, that's like half an hour, 45 minutes of begrudging work. Transcript, right? That could be like another half an hour of like whatever. If you're taking notes and doing stuff, not just like straight read, but it's a lot. So like it's look for little time savers that you can do that helps empower the work and make it faster, make it more accurate, make it more focused, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I love it. Actually, one of my favorite use cases right now is that like most of us have some kind of agent that is transcribing meetings, right? They're virtual meetings. And I do brainstorming with people for like marketing experiments, right? So like, this is where we are, this is where we're going. Let's create an experiment that we think can take us to the next step, and then we can assess from there. And we have these brainstorm conversations. So a brainstorm conversation comes up with a lot of ideas. One of the things we do at the end of the meetings is choose a thing, right? So we pick one thing that came up in this meeting. But now we have to convert that into an actual experiment, right? Which needs a hypothesis, and it needs a work back plan, and it needs the structure associated with that. And so I can just be like, okay, here's the brainstorm recording. Here is like where we're going, right? Like this is my draft hypothesis. Create the experiment design. And again, like, have I ever to date used anything 100% I got out of AI? No. Sometimes I will change it minimally, or I'll be like, oh, that's an interesting structure, but I would actually present this before this because I think that's how it makes sense. And so you just like copy and paste it. But in terms of the amount of time that it can save a lot of time. So again, like you can do the strategy building activities, the things where you add the most value as a human, and say like, okay, well, I could go back and rewatch the meeting. Well, I will tell you that is the number one thing I hate. I usually say no to it. People are like, here's a recorded session of this. Go back and watch it. Like, no. Can you just tell me what was important out of this? And so like sometimes I like doing it because I'm like, if I'm trying to get like the vibe of a person, then it's actually good. But then I'm trying to get the vibe of a person. Coming back to like, what are you trying to accomplish by doing this? But like, I just want to give somebody like a really clear understanding of like, this is where we ended. We can choose something different. I'm still not saying like this is the only path, but this is what we explored. This is where we ended. Here's like a work back plan to actually do that experiment so we can get data back in 2 weeks and then make new decisions from there. And like, I will tell you, people are jazzed by it. So this is the other thing I would say is we're like getting close to the end of our time together today.
Yeah.
It's like, how are others receiving what you're doing, right? Like if I'm like, oh, I'm using AI to like decipher these ideas and like present them in a way that makes sense, and they're jazzed by that, then I would say from at least a qualitative point of view, this is moving you in that direction of like, what are the things that contribute to accomplishing the goal? Because if we're talking about, and I keep going back to this because it's just such the basic version, but like either a DM message or a comment or a social media post that's been created by AI and like nobody engages with it, nobody reads it, there's no meaningful step that happened because of that. I mean, you can do a lot of those, but to what end? How is that being received? And so as we like wrap up today, Taryn, how would you tie that into our understandings of how we're using AI and whether or not we're using it to our benefit?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, like the work that I do, and like for content outlines or even some deep research and stuff, it has been like warmly received by my clients. The podcast booking is like, I mean, effusive. Like I got a call from the host that was like, oh my God, that was amazing. Like, so I'm getting really good feedback, right? But what I'm doing is like, once again, I'm coming back to judgment and intention and really looking for those use cases that went out, right? So like, for me, I'll do deep research on LinkedIn, like, well, not on LinkedIn, but in Gemini, right, for like some LinkedIn posts for CEO. And like those posts are really resonating. They're really popping, right? But they're not Gemini produced. They're me produced with the help of Gemini and deep research, right? Very similar, Tracy, to what you were saying. Right? Like we don't, in our judgment, we have to like finesse and fine tune and refine and maybe reorder some of the stuff. You just don't take it out of an engine and just pop it into a LinkedIn. And I want to add one comment about that for LinkedIn. Like, so this platform has changed people. So go back to the engineering notes that they published in February of this year. Their algorithms are LLMs. They've got a recommendation engine and they've got like, so they're suppressing that pure AI content. So now more than ever, please put your spin on it. Give that lived experience. Give a little bit of splash in there. Don't just paste it out of GPT with the same emojis that we all know come out of GPT and we can spot it a mile away, right? So like understand your media, your channels, maintain your judgment, be intentional. That's how you kind of will up level, get the work done, and have success. I mean, in my opinion.
I love that. And I like wrote down judgment. And the thing that, again, maybe makes me a little bit sad in this whole process, and I think it's uncovered an issue specifically in marketing that was a trend that is not a trend I think we would want to continue, which is that the people doing the work aren't practicing judgment, right? They're just doing things. They're creating content. They're just doing. And so sometimes that can also feel like, because I'll say like I am, maybe the worst is a hard way to put it, but like I'm always asking people to use their judgment. Like my 8-year-old is sitting over here. I ask him to use his judgment, right? Like I ask my teammates and my clients to use their judgment. And a lot of times what that reveals is they don't feel comfortable in their judgment. They don't have enough practice using their judgment to say like, my judgment is good and therefore it's worth me using it. And as like the human component, the human in the loop, right, we can tie in is that how, as people, can we help each other practice that judgment? Can we encourage people? Can we ask people? Can we give them opportunities where it's safe for them to fail, where if they end up not having judgment that moves the needle, or maybe moves the needle in a negative direction, even that's a learning opportunity. It comes back to that discovery and experimentation component that AI creates the possibility for. But if we're looking at, if you're listening to this today and you're like, well, I don't have good enough judgment right, to make those decisions. I mean, I would encourage you to look for the places where you do feel like you have the confidence, or you have the practice, or you have expertise, knowledge, whatever you want to put into your category of making that judgment call. And then also extrapolate it to like, oh, well, why am I trying to like use it for that when I feel like I do not have enough practice in even knowing what my judgment would be in that arena. And how can we build that as part of our journey with AI?
Well, I mean, I think judgment, you look at judgment like, and I know it sounds stupid, but look at it like a muscle, right? You have to build that up over time. Like, I mean, I started in the creative space, worked up to creative director and managing art director, right? Like, I had to make calls all the time. So the more you use that muscle, right, the more you're like looking at something, you're seeing like the 2+2, you're judging like the result, right? And you're figuring it out, like, does this work? Doesn't it work? Is it a within brand? Like, you just have to start practicing that judgment. You have to start making some calls, right? Like, you just can't don't. There's one quote from George Adair that I love. Everything you've ever wanted is on the other side of fear. And I think the judgment muscle doesn't get worked out because there's a fear of some kind of repercussion, right? I've taken shots. I've taken chances. I fell flat on my face before, right? Like, that's how I built my muscle up, right? Is that judgment muscle. It's like, I do it and I learn from it and I keep working on it and keep getting better and keep doing it. This is not a sprint, folks. Like, I'm going to tell you, with a 30-year career, it's a freaking marathon. And you're going to learn continually and build on that and keep that judgment tight. If you want to help somebody really focus on their judgment, right, and can like come up with something, when they present something to you, is this what you would do with what you know? And if not, like, how would you change this and why? Right? Like, ask questions, like, pull it out of them, right? Get it. Like, I'm not only a marketer, but I also lead teams that I have for 15 years. I know how to pull it out of my people and be like, guys, like, here we go. Okay, why would you do that? And why do you think that that's the right bet to make on this, right? And like, really pull it out and support them.
Yeah. I mean, I'm constantly asking people, what would you do? I actually like have it written on my house.
You could write a book on it, right? You know?
I mean, it would just be 4 words. What would you do? Actually, fun fact, first draft of the Crazy Stupid Marketing book has been currently submitted, folks, and is ready for beta readers if anybody happens to be interested in that. But it's like, it's about that. It's about the practice of like building that skill of understanding what you would do, because for most of us, we don't get asked that question enough to answer it in a confident way. And so if we practice looking like, is that what I would do? And I love, like, the first step of that, I know I've talked about this on the show before too, is answering that question, no, right? Like, is that what I would do? I don't know. Or like, no, it's not what I would do. I don't know what I would do, but I know it's not that.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
like,
exactly.
That's progress. That's part of the learning curve. That's the working of the muscle. And I love Mary Kay sharing here too. Practicing judgment is a necessary element of growth. It's okay to be wrong. That's how we learn.
Yeah.
And as
kids, it took me 30 years to have the confidence of a Starfleet captain. But yes, that's it. Just make that call.
I mean, and some of us are Captain Kirk and just like have that confidence maybe earlier. but everybody's on their own journey, and it's about if we're talking about goals and we're talking about destinations. We're like, where are we going? If we're sitting here right now and being like, I have no confidence in how AI is contributing positively, negatively at all to my marketing, like, this is an opportunity to say, like, okay, well, if I want to start to build confidence and judgment around how these types of tools can influence maybe even a 30, 40, 50 year career in marketing, right? Like, let's go. Let's start today. Let's learn some things. Let's try some stuff on. Let's see what works and see what doesn't. Let's test some things in ways that are not easy to fail, but like low if we risk. Fail, low risk. Low risk. Let's do that, and let's let that take us ever closer to our destination of finding the ways of integrating AI and agentic workflows that work for us in our marketing. Oh, you guys, this was such a fun episode. Taryn, if people are interested in learning more about you or any of the variety of things that you touched on today, where is the best place for them to find you?
Really for business, it's LinkedIn. So, find me on LinkedIn, DM, connect. If you feel like reading some content, look at my thought leadership on Substack and Medium. I write for Position Squared as well. So I'm all over the place and terminally online. So if you can't find me, it's because you're not trying.
And I actually made it easy for you guys because Taryn is tagged in the LinkedIn live post for this. So you can just click on the name and it will go.
Make it easy.
So easy. I make your guys' life so easy on this show. Taryn, thank you so much for sharing all of your wonderful insights. I also want to do quick shout outs to Leslie, Mary, Dan, Stacy, Gary, Greg, and Meryl, who are joining us in the comments today. You too, Greg. Good job. Good job.
Thanks, Greg. I can't wait to read your comments in full.
Oh, you and Greg, you should be. You guys would jam, I'm pretty sure, on
That's
the
awesome.
AI stuff. Thank you guys for joining us so much today. If you are practicing anything that you're taking away from the show, reach out to us. We would love to hear that and probably ask you questions about it too. Let's all work together to create a marketing department that is using these technologies in meaningful ways so we can all lead by example. And with that, friends, we're going to leave it for today. And until next time, permission to do you.